$1,574.89. That's what a single above-the-knee leg amputation can pay a veteran alone every month in 2026. And here's the part that should stop you cold. On a lot of these claims, the VA pays the big rating and quietly forgets the second check that's supposed to sit right on top of it. That second check has a name almost nobody says out loud, and it can add well over $1,000 a year that you are legally owed. Stay with me because most veterans never learn it exists until the back pay window has already closed on them.
This is May, and the whole thing starts from one idea: loss. Amputations sit in their own corner of the rating schedule, and they rate high 60, 70, 90% before a single add-on. The VA grades a limb by how much is gone and how high up the loss goes.
I'm Michael, and look at how the money is built, because it's 2 layers, not 1. Layer 1 is the scheduler rating, the percentage. Layer 2 is special monthly compensation, a whole separate, higher pay chart that stacks on top when you lose the use of a hand or a foot.
Hey all, Nora here. And careful, this is exactly where money goes missing. The rater assigns the percentage, moves on, and the SMC add-on never gets tacked on. Same veteran, same loss, hundreds of dollars a month lighter, and they never find out why.
So say the name out loud: Special Monthly Compensation. Written as SMC, and the first tier we care about is SMC-K. Losing a hand or a foot triggers it, on top of the rating. That's the check they forget.
And loss doesn't only mean the limb is physically gone. A hand or foot that's still attached but has no useful function can rate the same way. The VA calls it loss of use, and it opens the exact same doors.
Right, and hold on to that phrase, loss of use, because a limb you still have can quietly rate as an amputation. That's the door most veterans never open, and it's where the real money hides today.
One question shows up under every one of these videos, and Nora pulled it off the comments. Nora, read it for us and take it.
Yes, the one everyone asks. If my leg is amputated above the knee, do I get the SMC on top, or is the rating all I get? And the honest answer is both. The rating and the SMC. That stacking is the whole game today.
That's the whole show. High rating, plus a check they forget. Everything we cover, plus the full conditions list and free tools to run your own numbers. Lives at va.professorerica.com. Now let's climb the ladder, because where the loss lands sets the whole number.
Every amputation gets a code, and the codes climb with the loss. Let me walk you up the ladder, leg first, then arm, so you can find where yours lands. Take the leg from the bottom up. Amputation of the foot, 40%. A below-the-knee amputation, 40%. Above the knee, in the thigh, jumps to 60%. And a disarticulation at the hip, where the whole leg is gone at the joint, hits 90%.
Same shape on the arm, just different names for the rungs. Loss of use of the hand, 70%. A forearm amputation below the elbow, 70%. Higher up, below the deltoid, 80%. And a disarticulation at the shoulder, 90%.
Wait, so a below-the-knee amputation and a whole foot amputation both land at 40%?
They do, and that surprises people. Below the knee, foot, forefoot, all 40% as the scheduler floor. That 40 isn't the ceiling on your pay though, it's the floor the SMC then builds on. Hold that thought.
There's one wrinkle on the arm worth 10 seconds. The dominant arm and the other arm rate differently.
Right, the VA calls your dominant side major and the other side minor. A major arm loss rates a notch higher than the exact same loss on the minor arm, since you rely on it more. Below the deltoid is 80 on the major side, 70 on the minor.
And this is why the level you file matters. If the paperwork says foot when the real loss is below the knee, or below the knee when it's really above, the number can come back light. Match the code to where the loss actually is.
So the rule is short: Higher loss, higher rung, bigger check.
That's the latter. But a rung is just a percentage, and a percentage is still only layer 1. Next, the part where a leg you still have can rate like it's already gone. One thing before the next part, and then we move right on. If any of this is clicking, tap that like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell for the next one. It takes a second, it costs nothing, and it helps more than you would think. Here's the part that pays people who never lost a limb on paper: loss of use. Your hand or foot is still there, but it does nothing useful, and the VA rates it as if it were amputated.
The standard is written down, and it's cleaner than you'd think. The book asks one question: is there any effective function left that a prosthesis at the same site wouldn't do just as well? If the honest answer is no, that's loss of use.
Look at what actually clears that bar. A hand frozen by nerve damage that can't grip. A foot that can't bear weight or push off. A joint fused so stiff it just hangs there, attached but functionally gone. Each of those can rate at the amputation level.
And the win underneath it is the one people miss. If loss of use rates like an amputation, does it also trigger the same SMC add-on?
It does, that's the whole point. Loss of use of one foot pulls in SMC-K exactly like a real amputation of that foot. Same door, same extra check, and the limb is still attached. People walk past thousands of dollars because nobody told them the attached one counts.
Now the guardrail, because there is one. It's called the amputation rule, and it caps how high you can stack on a single limb.
The rule says the combined rating for one extremity can't go above what a clean amputation at the best level would pay. So if you've got 3 problems below the knee, painful, weak, and unstable, they can't combine past 40% because a below-the-knee amputation is 40. That's the ceiling for that limb.
Careful though, that cap is per limb, not per veteran. It caps the one leg. It does not touch your other conditions, and it does not block the SMC sitting on top.
That's the key line. The amputation rule caps layer 1. It never caps the SMC. The add-on lives in a different section of the law entirely.
So loss of use gets you to the amputation rating, the cap keeps one limb honest, and the SMC still stacks. Which means it's finally time to open that second check and see what it actually pays.
Careful, because this is exactly where the money slips through. Meet Ray, a 61-year-old Army veteran with an above-the-knee amputation from a service injury. Watch what he's actually owed, layer by layer.
Start with layer 1, the rating. An above-the-knee amputation rates 60%, and for a veteran alone in 2026 that pays $1,435.02 a month. That's the check almost everyone gets right.
Now the layer they skip. Ray lost his foot with that leg, so he's owed SMC-K on top. That's another $139.87 a month, every month.
Stack them, and Ray's real number is $1,574.89 a month, not $1,435.
And run the gap across a year. That skipped SMC is about $1,680 a year. Over a decade of a missed add-on, you're past $16,000. Same injury, same file, just nobody added line 2.
And K is just the first letter. Lose both feet, or one hand and one foot, and you climb to SMC-L, which is a different world. L for a veteran alone pays $4,900.83 a month in 2026.
Wait, $4,900? That's more than 100% scheduler rating pays.
It is, and that's the design. The SMC ladder runs from K all the way up past L, and it exists exactly because 2 lost limbs is not double 1 lost limb. The law treats it as its own, heavier loss.
So the honest headline is Layer 2 is where the real money hides, and it's the layer the paperwork most often drops. Get the rating, then go hunting for every letter you qualify for.
Which raises the obvious question. If it's owed, how do you actually make the VA pay it? That runs through one exam and one form, and we called in someone who works those every day. Every dollar we just walked runs through two things: one appointment and one form. Yet either wrong and a real loss reads as less on paper.
The appointment is the compensation and pension exam. For an amputation, it's usually quick. The loss is obvious. For loss of use, it's the whole ball game because the examiner is measuring what function is left, and that measurement becomes your rating.
And the form is where people freeze. You file the amputation on VA Form 21-526EZ. Wait, no, let me back up. I had two numbers crossed. The 526EZ is the initial claim. The 995 is the supplemental, for later. For a new amputation claim, it's the 526EZ.
That's exactly the kind of detail you want from someone who does this every day. So let's get her on the line.
Happy to jump in, and you already touched the thing I fight for most, the SMC. On an amputation claim, I actually worry less about the rating and more about whether the K got added. 9 times out of 10, the rating is right and the add-on is just missing. Where it goes on the form is item 16. You name the condition plainly: above knee amputation, right leg, and if it's a loss of use claim, you describe the lost function there too. Vague in that box, the rater guesses. Specific, and you've handed them the grant.
Say that in plain clicks. Do you literally write the words SMC on the form?
You can, and I tell people to. The VA is supposed to award SMC automatically when the evidence supports it, but supposed to is doing a lot of work in that sentence. One sentence in item 16, I am also claiming special monthly compensation for loss of the foot, costs you nothing and removes the excuse.
And the back pay clock. When does it start?
Your effective date is generally the day the VA received your claim. The regulation 38 CFR 3.400 says the date of the claim or the date entitlement arose, whichever is later. So don't wait for a perfect week. The clock starts when you file. And one last thing, then I'm off. When your decision letter comes, don't just read the percentage, find the SMC line. If it's blank and you lost a hand or foot, that's a supplemental claim, not a shrug. Read the decision, not just the number.
Read the decision, not just the number. That's the line nobody hands you in a pamphlet. Diane, thank you for jumping on. Here's the fork we owe you. When a limb's still attached but barely works, do you fight for the full loss of use rating or take the lower scheduler number and move on? May says push it. Michael says count the cost first. Let's pressure test it.
Push it. Loss of use rates as an amputation, and it unlocks SMC-K. A frozen foot rated as loss of use isn't 40%. It's 40% plus 140 a month for life. That gap is the difference between a limp and a paycheck.
Slow down. Loss of use is a judgment call at the exam, and judgment calls get denied. Some effective function left, and the examiner says no, not loss of use. Now you've spent a year and a nexus argument to land back on the ordinary rating you'd have gotten anyway.
Michael, draw the line. When is it worth the fight?
When the record already shows it. A doctor's note that says no functional grip or can't bear weight. That's a filing you win. A borderline foot that's weak but works, that's the coin flip I'd get an opinion on before I start the clock.
But even the coin flip pays if it lands, and the standard isn't perfection. It's whether a prosthesis would serve you better than what's left. That's a lower bar than most veterans assume.
Fair. I'm not saying don't file. I'm saying line up the medical evidence first, then file, so your maybe is really a maybe and not a wish.
So does the effort argument move your always, May?
It does, honestly. I was treating every case the same. where the record documents no useful function. Push loss of use every time. Where it's borderline, get the doctor's opinion first, then push. Michael's right that it isn't free.
And I'll give May the bigger half. On a clean amputation, there's no judgment call at all. That SMC-K is owed flat out, and I'd chase it every single time.
So here's where the panel lands, and the law backs it. On a clear amputation, always claim the rating and the SMC-K in writing because it's simply owed. On loss of use, when a doctor has documented no effective function, push it. The standard is whether a prosthesis would serve you better. When it's borderline, get the opinion before you start the clock. That's the honest verdict. A verdict you can act on this week. Name the amputation, claim the SMC in writing, and read the decision line by line when it lands. May, Michael, thank you. Let's bring it home. Here's the whole thing in one breath. Amputations rate high on their own. The higher the loss, the higher the rung, and then special monthly compensation stacks a separate check right on top.
The piece I'd hold on to is loss of use. A hand or foot that's still attached but does nothing useful can rate as an amputation and open the exact same SMC door.
And the number that stuck with me is 140 a month skipped. That's the SMC-K that quietly falls off. $16,000 over a decade on one file.
Mine's the one-line move. When your decision comes, find the SMC line. If you lost a hand or foot and it's blank, that's a supplemental, not a shrug.
So here's your rep for tonight. Pull up your last decision letter and look for one thing, the SMC line. If it's missing and you're owed it, you just found your next claim. Subscribe, because this series climbs the whole VA system one benefit at a time, and a like tells the algorithm to show it to the next veteran who needs it. Next time we stay on the conditions list, and here's the hook. There's a way two separate ratings on two different limbs can combine into a whole new SMC tier most veterans never get told about. Wait until you see the math on that one. And before you go, one for the comments. If you have an amputation or a loss of use rating, did the VA add your SMC automatically, or did you have to fight for it? This is Chris. Thanks for watching and signing off.